Hey everybody, welcome to the GMG review. Today we're taking a look at Kill Team Blood and Zeal, the latest two-faction expansion for the new Kill Team 2024 that includes two kind of bananas new warbands that don't have like a direct like 40k parallel right now. This isn't like a redo of like some other 40k unit that we've seen before. These are kind of brand new units, but with a lot of like classic 40k vibes. Now this was kindly sent as a complimentary review copy by Workshop, and I'm gonna break this review into three separate pieces. So I'm gonna do the box content, so like the actual terrain and stuff like that, so you can see what comes in here. Have a look at the sprues. Then I'm gonna do the two warbands separately. So the two new kill teams, I'll do as individual other videos. So 3 videos today. Kind of breaking this up into its individual parts because some people don't care about one and only care about the other, and they want to hear about them. Anyway, comes all together in one box. If you've seen the last one of these, it included Ratlings and Rekkas, who are the big they're tank busters but melee, so big like choppers and stuff like that. This includes, I'm sure, going to be one of the most popular units of the year, which is the Sanctifiers. These guys are an ecclesiarchal, like kit bash wet dream, basically, led by a confessor, includes a whole bunch of freaks. And what's cool is in this book, you get a ton of background on the different cults inside the ecclesiarchy, the Adeptus Ministorum, and like what they kind of represent as far as the belief systems that are subsets of that and how they become militarized. A lot of cool throwbacks in here. This Confessor Kirinov style mace is a throwback to a 2nd edition miniature. This right here is literally one of the missionaries from 2nd edition with like his goggles and stuff like that. This Death Cult Assassin is definitely a throwback to a Fanatic era Inquisitor miniature. And this is just straight up Preacher Joseph from Inquisitor. There's no doubt about it. This guy right here, if you gave him the Firestarter haircut, is literally the Firestarter Zealot miniature from the Witch Hunters book. And we've even got like kind of a Mordheim callback here with the Augur, this like blind sort of saint with her, what is it? What's the word? The stigmatic hands with like little purity seals put through them. Just fantastic miniatures. And then to take them on, we have the Goremongers, of course, in a unit of 8. And these guys have maybe one of the freakiest backgrounds in all 40k. They're basically like cultists who've been caught up with the World Eaters. And at some point during the combat of like being used as cannon fodder by the Legion, they witness a bloodletter. And the bloodletter becomes their like obsession. And the bloodletters, of course, are the foot soldiers of the Chaos God Khorne. They have like these backwards sort of like jointed limbs. They carry swords. They have huge horns, and they become obsessed with the idea of becoming a demon. And so they willingly submit themselves to like the butcher doctors of the former apothecarian of the World Eaters to have their limbs all sawed off and replaced with like weird cybernetics. So they're almost like a bastardized version of the Skitarii from the Adeptus Mechanicus, except they're like literally trying to become bloodletters by serving Khorne well enough. And all of their augmetics are fueled by blood that's been spilled in combat. So they have these huge backpacks that they have to constantly fill with the viscera of the people they kill. And if they don't, their augmetics basically stop working. The biosorcery, that's been the blood basically, that's been like captured by the World Eater apothecaries, is the fuel that makes them work, and they just creak to a halt and then get torn apart by their friends. Because no one here is like on the same team. They're all competing to become a bloodletter, and they're kind of like kept in line by the alpha. So the story about this, I'll get to the story when we talk about the book itself, is pretty cool. And it's pretty unique. It's a unique take on stuff. But and obviously the third piece that comes in here is this huge statue. I did kind of appreciate that I didn't have a whole bunch of terrain to paint in this one. So when you guys see this on the table, obviously the statues are relatively easy to build and paint piece of kit because it's just this huge marble edifice. So you can get away a lot with like a primer, a couple like zenithal primed slap chopping and then throwing on some washes on the actual statue itself, and then it's just the details on the bottom. Let's take a look at the kits and dive in here. So like I said, a total of 16 miniatures in the box, 32 mil bases for the Goremongers. They're kind of, they're almost like the what do we call it? It's the Hunter Clades from the Adeptus Mechanicus with their like weird sort of like limbs. A single sprue for this piece, obviously super easy to build. What I really appreciated was the base plinth is separate from the angel. So you build the angel, and and then you don't worry about the rest of it because you just prime the angel with the beiges and do like a zenithal, prime the bottom gray, and then just finish painting the damn thing. This is going to be like a super quick paint job, but nice chunky detail and just a cool piece to have on the table, even in 40K as like an objective marker. Like the plinth isn't that big. If you look at it, it would easily fit on a 40 mil base, and I might even stick it on a 40 mil base because it would just make a cool visual as like a 40K marker. Then we get 2 frames for the Goremongers. Lots of options here to give them various chain axes and stuff like that. There isn't a ton, like there is a couple of specialists in this team, but because they have an 8 model count, and they're all like relatively tough, you don't have to worry too much about the specialists, like the gunfighter and a couple of like extra big weapons. But for the most part, I'm assuming this is going to be a 40K unit in the World Eaters list eventually, or almost certainly online immediately as like a download. So you might want to wait. I'm going to wait to build these because I do have a World Eaters army for 40K just to see what the loadouts are. It doesn't matter like that much, but if there's a way I can get all the specialists and also build kind of like a appropriate for 40K unit, I will do that. So I'm going to build these guys first, mostly because I'm wicked excited about them. And boy, howdy, look at all the cool bits that come on here. The hashtag 28 crew is definitely salivating over this one. It's such a great, like, we saw this with the Inquisitor. It almost feels like this was developed along the same time as the Inquisitorial Warband. And this probably fits together with all of it too. But what I really appreciate, this is my favorite thing, look at these heads. These are all relatively easy to kit bash to. Like, there's no pagan fixtures. The heads are all divoted into these little slots right here with the cowls. So all of the bodies that look like this, all interchangeable weapon-wise and arm-wise, because it's just the arms coming out the bottom. So you can do a lot of like customization, and most of the arms are designed to just kind of come out of the lower sleeves of the miniature. And you can like mix and match accordingly. And you can even swap in like guard bits and stuff too. One of the cults is basically following around a Cadian regiment, and they're supposed to be like mixing and matching their war gear with Cadians. So there's a ton of like options here basically to make these guys like how you want them. And then on this side of the frame, you have the specialists and stuff like that, like this this priestly sort of psyker. The confessor himself is like a large, cool miniature, which would make a cool inquisitor even. But he does have his mace all built in. A couple different Pope hats though, so you do get some different options for him right here. And then even the Death Cult Assassin, only a few pieces, but he has multiple head options you can see. So there's 2 different cowled head options, one with like a rebreather that you can put on there. So all in all, man, and I was so excited about that. See this head right here? That's the Malachant head. That's the head for the dude who like hangs out with Inquisitor Hand in Demonifuge. That's literally from Demonifuge, that little cowl, which is like over the eyes. It's extremely cool. Anyway, enough gushing over this because obviously I could do that all day. Let's have a look at the last bit of components in the box. So obviously we're gonna get our token set for the warbands, exactly like with the last 2 warbands, and I do super appreciate this. We get all of our cards for the warbands to play with. So I think that's it in this box, yeah. Just hit myself in the face. So we get our 2 warbands, we get our Sanctifiers, and we get our Goremongers, full set of cards. I'll go through these unit cards when we do the actual book reviews. And then the top and bottom half of these, and they're all in Tarot scale, which is now the standard scale for this game. And the top and bottom of these are all the Goremonger tokens, and these are all of the tokens for the Sanctifiers. I do really appreciate that you get some base tokens as well for like using as proxy bases. Isn't that cool? And if you didn't have a starting token set from the starter set, you even get some plus minus APL tokens. You get your gear tokens here for like the mines and the ammo counters and stuff. So if you decided to start Kill Team with this box set, you would have like the basics of what you need to play. The only thing you don't have is activation tokens. So I think that's like my last bit. If you just put some activation tokens in here, this would be an incredibly, like, even replace the gear tokens, which I get, like, it's handy to have gear tokens. Replace the gear tokens with activation tokens. Just 8 and 8, like the right amount for the warband, you know what I mean? 8 of one and 10 of the other. Like, I guess it would take up some real estate. Even if you just did enough activation tokens for one of the 2 teams, did like 10 of each, like 10 engaged and 10 was the hidden one stealth or whatever. Yeah, just do that. Do 10 of each. Then you could play with either of these sides on their own if someone wanted to use the starter set. I think that'd be cool. Like one of these 2 base sizing things could just be those tokens, or just take the bases out completely and replace it with that. That would be my one suggestion, I think, for these things. And then we get these, which I believe are campaign cards. All right, let's have a look at these. Yeah, blood cards for the blood abilities and zeal cards for the zeal abilities. So these are like your additional, almost like buy effects. If you've ever played like a demon army in 40k or Age of Sigmar, sometimes they collect points of something like change points or the Slanesh, whatever the god points are, and spend them. That's basically what this is. And then vice versa, it's the zeal points get used for the same thing. So like you can use the double block ability, use a zeal card when a friendly operative is fighting or retaliating. When you block with a success, it can be allocated to 1 block as normal or 2 unresolved successes. You cannot use this card if your opponent has no dice that can be blocked. So like it's just like little bonuses you can spend your zeal points on. And so they give you the cards to track them, which is a nice touch. Like it could just be a table in the book. They had extra space, they printed cards, and you get these for your ongoing purchasing effects so that you can keep track of them and know what they are. And that's the box components. Last but obviously we have the Blood Zeal dossier. This is our book for the 2 factions, full color once again. And I'll talk about the story. This one's around the day of firing. The giant gun in Volcus, the Cascabel, which is a district in the heart of Hive Basilicus, bustles with activity. The prayers of Volcus' clergy echo throughout the streets as each colossal component of the Great Gun's ordnance is hauled slowly into position. If you remember us playing the original Volcus campaign, one of the online missions was the Great Gun Fires. Jay and I played it, and it was so fun. Because this is a prequel basically to that happening. It's before the Great Guns fired during the invasion of Volcus. And like when there was like basically 3 steps to it. The first one was like it's dead calm. The second one was it's about to fire and everyone gets like bonus movement because they're all dashing for cover. But at the end of that turn, the gun fires. And at the start of the next turn, everybody who is on one side of the gun's on this side of the table. Everyone's who's not behind like heavy cover, the gun's shockwave travels this way and it just damages everybody as like the blast like kicks out from the recoil of the gun. And the last turn is everyone has tinnitus and nobody can shout orders to each other, so like you couldn't use abilities. It was really, really cool. And this is basically the story of the problem in the Underhive in Basilicus, because the Goremongers got off a spaceship there. So the Goremongers were the creation of these world eaters apothecaries, and the world eaters lose a war previously, and they're fleeing, and one of their ships that they managed to board is an Imperial ship that's like evacuating the planet. And a bunch of these Goremongers get onto it, and when the ship finally lands on Volcus, it's too late. Like everyone inside is dead. The whole place is just like a giant charnel pit, and yeah, there's nobody. It looks like the end of Event Horizon inside this ship. It's the Event Horizon. The Event Horizon comes back, and it's not great. Ex Infernus, yeah. And then the Goremongers get into the Underhive, and it's hard to tell what the cult activity is for the ecclesiastic cults who are like purging the unclean down there, and what's the Goremongers like fueling themselves by butchering the people in the bottom of the Underhive. So they can't, the people of Volcus can't really tell the difference between the two of them, but eventually when the gun's about to fire, the Goremongers decide that they'll prove themselves to Khorne by blowing up the magazine and killing everyone in the city. And if they can do so, then they will have proven themselves to Khorne and they'll achieve daemonhood, right? This is their like ultimate bloodletting, is by killing an entire city full of people by detonating the gun's magazine before the gun can go off. And then the cults, the ecclesiac cults, get wind of it and try and stop them. So Zadarov's Devout and the Crimson Ascent are the two sort of like protagonist factions in here. You can see he definitely believes he's a bloodletter. He's all dressed up like a bloodletter. And then Zadarov is this like crazy confessor who's like riled up all the local ecclesiarchs to send their cultists down into the imperial cultists down in the Underhive and do purges so that the gun can fire. Yeah, and it's a fantastic, like it has a great color section here where you learn about the different cults. So like the Pious Redemptors, they're basically the cult of redemption from Necromunda. The Righteous Persecutionists, they're embedded in a bunch of Cadian regiments, and so they've taken on a more militaristic tone, and like they wear like a bunch of them are ex-guardsmen, and they're all carrying like ex-guard gear. The Coriola's Consecrationists, attached to Task Force Gorgon of Battle Group Demeter. They fight along the Order of the Sacred Rose, so like attacks to a Sisters of Battle convent. And the saviors of Terranor are in the Pariah Nexus, and they're convinced they can stop the stilling. They're basically the survivors of this planet that was in the Pariah Nexus, who the whole place was stilled except for those that had the greatest faith. And when Imperial reinforcements finally arrived and like drove the Necrons off, they'd been fighting a guerrilla war against the Necrons, and only 8 of them were still alive and not stilled. And they left the planet and basically formed this cult inside the Imperial Creed to hunt the Necrons. So it's cool to get some background on these, and it does kind of flush them out. I don't know if this will be a part of the Sisters of Battle in the future, but it's just a really neat like sub story behind all this stuff. And yeah, you can see all our specialists. So the Confessor, the Cherub, that's his like little follow-around guy. The Conflagrator, who just loves fire. The Death Cult Assassin. The Drill Abbot, obviously Preacher Joseph. The Miraculist, the Missionary, which is literally the old second edition Missionary. The Persecutor. I love that he's got the hood on too. This is the Redemptionist. The Preacher. The Reliquant. And then the Salvationist, which is the Psyker. That's the sort of like miraculous Psyker. And then we get a bit on the Goremongers as well. But they don't have like a... These are our subsects because they're just Goremongers. They all die in the end. They want to be demons. The Blood Herald, he's like the leader of the pack. The Blood Taker is one of the, like, he's almost their vampire man, sort of, I guess what I say. The Impaler is like a guy who like drags people down with his hook shot. And Setter's the actual like only gunslinger. And then Skullclamor's the heavy weapon guy, and Stalkers are the basic like creep along, charge well concealed dudes. Yeah, so we'll get into the actual kill teams in the next episode. But there it is, the box set. I gotta say, man, the quality of these boxes just keeps going up. I loved the last one. The Rattlings were so cool. Even the new Orcs, like they're a simple team, right? With just like 6 Orcs that have big weapons and hit things, are a really cool team. This one, the only thing this one doesn't have that the last one did is the changeable terrain. The fact that the terrain like popped out and like would transform. But it does have something different this time. Like the statue is something different. It's not like just a ruin or a building or another piece of like the same stuff we kind of had in the Volcus site. I really like that. I am still crossing my fingers for, and I know this stuff was developed like last year, 2 years ago. It's all done. Like nothing's gonna get changed. I'm crossing my fingers for some kind of vehicle kit. Give me a wrecked tank, a wrecked like Humvee style transport, or some kind of like, just like flatbed truck, something that makes Volcus look lived in. For some reason, 40K, they refuse to make terrain with just like the Ford, like the Ford F-150 lying around. Any kind of actual like battlefield is going to have a ton of non-military stuff blown up and lying around. I just want more of that for Kill Team, because Kill Team's such an intimate story thing. So the shrine's really cool. It fits with the story and the narrative too, right? Because obviously we have this like Imperial cult creed. So having a little like shrine-y temple, to the living saint, I think is appropriate. But I just really, really want that. I really want some kind of like wrecked piece of terrain that makes it feel like it's a real world, if that makes sense. So yeah, and then it's funny to see this in A5 scale, but the manual's in A5, and I kind of like that. It was just easier to navigate around, and I'm excited to build these models because, yeah, look at all the different variations, different guns, different arms. God, these are so cool. And I am saving the Goremongers for last, not because I don't want to paint them, because I do want to paint them, because I want to see what the 40K rules are. And I don't care what the 40K rules are for these guys. These miniatures are just so baller. I'm definitely going to do them first. Now, the Blood and Zeal mission pack is what the additional cards in this deck are going to be for. These guys right here. And they allow you to play through a series of like PvP, so like player versus player, competitive missions. And they also use the Shrine Statue special rules. So as you can see, the Shrine Statue has a bunch of different stuff where you can either make it defiled or you can make it as a standard shrine. I do like the defiled shrine tips though, where like you put chains around it and like drill its eyes out so you can make it more corn and break the sword and stuff. One of these Shrine Statues is an additional components from a Chaos Space Marine vehicle added to it. These parts have been added alongside, so you can see that it was damaged by corn like cultists. So you get the option of making it 2 different ways here, which I think is pretty cool as a hobby tip. So this mission pack is designed to be used alongside other mission packs. It provides a set of cards to add excitement to your battle, and should be determined from a mission book like the preliminary ops from Kill Team Core Book or the approved ops. Due to the extra layer of rules this mission pack provides, you may feel it's better to play a simpler mission. I would probably play the standard like preliminary ops for this one, because it does add a bit of complication to it. And this mission can be used in any kill zone, but the shrine statue feature must include in the box, must be added to it. The shrine feature gives certain rules in-game, so ensure that's set up correctly and fairly as needed for its use. So like basically put it close to the midline. If you're feeling particularly creative, you can use a train feature from your collection to represent something similar and use your best judgment. Mission rules. When setting up the battle, after selecting drop zones, the player with the initiative sets up the shrine statue feature. It must be on the center line, equally within each player's territory and more than 1 inch from other train features. At the end of the battle, in addition to the VP scored from the mission, each player adds up the Blood and Zeal cards in their discard piles. If a player has more discarded Blood cards than their opponent has, they get a VP. If the player has more discarded Zeal cards than their opponent has, they score a VP. And then the deck itself, when setting up the battle, prepare the cards into 2 decks, 1 deck of Blood cards, 1 deck of Zeal cards, and shuffle each deck, then place them face down next to the kill zone. Place 3 cards from each deck face down next to their respective decks, so like you do a river, basically. And when a card's type, Blood or Zeal, is obvious, it's important to keep its details secret. Neither player can look at the text in the cards unless otherwise specified. Whenever a player is instructed to draw a card, they take a card, Blood or Zeal, from the draw section and add to their hand. Remember, a player can't look at the specifics of cards before they choose them, so you have to draw blind, basically. In general, Blood cards are offense, and Zeal cards are defense. And both, you can draw from either one, whether you're Khorne or Sanctifiers. Once a player adds this card to their hand, they can look at its text, but it should be a secret from their opponent. The player then replaces the drawn card in the draw section with another face-down card from the top of the deck to fill it in. If a player would draw cards simultaneously, they alternate drawing cards and replacing them before their opponent draws until they've drawn the required amount of cards, starting with the player who has initiative. Players draw 1 card in the ready step of the strategy phase, and whenever their opponent scores a VP. So it's kind of a Mario Kart effect, right? If someone's getting ahead, these get drawn to kind of fill in and give you additional boosts and stuff. Each card specifies when a player can use it, providing additional rules for the opportune moment. Once you use a card, put it in the discard pile, and each player has 2 discard piles, 1 for each type of card, and you're going to get VPs at the end of the game based upon who has the most. So examples of these cards, right, as this like push-pull mechanic, and they kind of remind me a little bit of the cards from Spearhead, right, where they give you these additional bonuses. So this one, for instance, +1 APL for control. Use a Zeal card during a friendly operative's activation or counteraction at the end of the turning point. Select 1 objective marker that your opponent controls until the start of the next turning point. When determining control of the marker, treat the APL of like your guys as 1 higher. So it pushes the control of a single objective up by 1. -3 D3 damage on a shot. So like when you drop these, you don't know what they're going to be, but you want to use them as soon as you can. Free action, get an immediate 1 APL action for free before or after you perform an action. Zeal, ignore a weapon rule, like ignore AP or ignore rending, right? Ignore critical mortals or mortal wounds. Not mortal wounds. Yeah, mortal wounds. Critical defense, like have a critical defense dice. Heal 3d3, like you just want to gain a CP. Just burn them as fast as you can, basically. And these ones are all offense, like plus D3 damage to a strike or a shot, plus an inch of move, make a crit, reroll an attack dice, double fight or shoot. You can perform the action twice. Take the initiative and the initiative step with no roll off. Right, so it's cool because they just provide you with this additional mechanical layer to the game where you get to influence the outcome a little bit if you're behind in order to try and catch up. And I think it's a cool mechanic, and any faction can use them. Obviously, the theme to the Goremongers and the Sanctifiers, but you can just play this mission pack and add this additional layer. So it's just kind of like a little flavor dash, and you put the shrine on the table to add that additional sort of like layer of stuff to it, as controlling the shrine can mean stuff. At the end of the battle, you score those extra VPs, and based upon the discarded cards that are going to be there. And then the actual statue itself, you can perform, Shrine Statue is heavy. It can be contested and controlled by operatives and has a plinth. Treat the plinth marker for the purpose of contesting and controlling the shrine, basically the bottom of it. Whenever you can draw a card from the operatives control the shrine terrain feature, you can look at the text in the card before drawing it to see if you want to get it. You can then draw the card or draw a different one, but you can't look at the second one. And then friendly operatives for an APL can perform Praise or Blaspheme, shuffle 1 card from your hand or 2 from your discarded cards back into the decks. Note that your discarded cards are potentially worth VPs at the end of the battle, so this can affect that. And then draw a card. And an operative cannot perform this action while there's someone within 3 of the terrain feature. And then Hallow or Defile. 1 Shrine Statue terrain feature. The active operative controls is Hallow or Defile. Draw a card for an APL. And an operative cannot perform this action once within control range of the enemy. It doesn't control the shrine terrain feature or the shrine turn statue has been held or defiled during the turning point. So you basically have to have the shrine. Like if you had 2 of these, you could mark them differently, but you have to, you can like lock it out basically by hallowing it and defiling it. I think that's neat. So yeah, just a cool like additional well of stuff to get you more of these cards, and a cool little dash onto the overall pack. All right, so there it is. First part 1. Part 2, we're gonna do the Sanctifiers. So you can click over to that video now. Big thanks for watching. Big thanks for Workshop sending this along. Till next time, Ash.